Hello and welcome back to Shakesyear. We are still working on Henry VIII and we've made it to Act 4. We get to hear from First Gentleman in Act 4, Scene 1. Just quick recap before I get into First Gentleman. The Duke of Buckingham has been killed because he was found to be a traitor. The king divorced Catherine so that he could marry Anne Boleyn, and he did all of these things without necessarily getting the proper permissions or going through the right channels first. And Cardinal Wolsey has been found to be a traitor, and he's been sort of put under house arrest and somewhat defrocked, and he's very much not in the king's favor anymore. So now we are in Act 4, Scene 1, which we had the first and second gentlemen before, right before Buckingham's trial at the beginning of the play, and they were commenting on the people going back and forth, going off to this trial, and they're like the audience members of their programs, and they're just watching the whole thing. In this scene, they're a little bit more like, I sort of want to call them Waldorf and Statler, for those of you that understand that reference, but they are, I think it's an interesting device that Shakespeare decided to use in this instance, in this play, where these two big things that are happening, this trial and this coronation of Anne Boleyn, he chooses not to put on stage, like front and center of the action. He chooses to look at these things through the eyes of the common people as they're watching all of this hubbub happen around them. So Act 4, Scene 1 starts out with First Gentleman and Second Gentleman. They are the same gentlemen that we had met previously, and they're like, hey, remember last time we were here and we watched Buckingham get taken off to his trial? Wasn't that a whole lot of fun? And Second Gentleman is like, what's that piece of paper that you have? And the First Gentleman's like, oh, this is a list of all of the people who are going to be getting their titles once she's coronated. And Second Gentleman's like, oh, that's awesome that you have that. Thanks. Can I look at that with you? Otherwise I'm going to be totally lost. And First Gentleman's like, sure, why not? And Second Gentleman is like, and by the way, do you know what happened to former Queen Catherine, who's now known as the Princess Dowager? Like, do you know whatever happened with that whole thing? And First Gentleman says, that I can tell you too. The Archbishop of Canterbury, accompanied with other learned and reverend fathers of his order, held a late court at Dunstable, 6 miles off from Ampthill, where the princess lay, to which she was often cited by them, but appeared not, and to be short for not appearance, and the king's late scruple, by the main assent of all these learned men, she was divorced, and the late marriage made of none effect, since which she was removed to Kimilton, where she remains now sick. So yeah, just a quick little blurb where it's like it is the gossip of the town that this trial happened and that she didn't go to it, or that she left it, but that the net result is that she is now divorced and she's been sent off to Kimilton, where she is staying in somewhat ill health. So just after this, the Coronation Procession comes in, and it's a very long bit of stage direction. There's like 12 different steps of who's following who and who's carrying what, and all of the pomp and circumstance of the Coronation Procession passes by these two gentlemen, and as it's passing by, they're sitting there and they're like, well, and who's that one, and who's that one, and the First Gentleman, who has his program, is pointing out like, oh, that's Norfolk, that's Suffolk, blah 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 blah, all this kind of fun stuff, all the way through the end of the procession, at which point a third gentleman enters, and we get to hear from him tomorrow. So I'm gonna stop this now. Anyway, I'll see you tomorrow when we hear from Third Gentleman. Ta-da! Mwah.